Keeping in with the traditions of Jamia, we will begin our function with the Tilawat-e-Quran. I would request Mr. AZRA.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم صدق الله العظيم. तर्जुमा। शुरू अल्लाह के नाम से जो बहुत मेहरबान और निहायत रहम वाला है। पढ़िए अपने रब के नाम से जिसने पैदा किया, इंसान को जमे हुए खून से पैदा किया। पढ़िए आपका रब बड़ा करीम है जिसने कलम के ज़रिए इल्म सिखाया, इंसान को वो तालीम दी जो वो नहीं जानता था। ट्रांसलेशन। In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Read in the name of your Lord who created. He created man from cloth. Read, and your Lord is the most bounteous, who taught by means of pen, taught man at that which he knew not. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Dr. KRNC Center for Dalit and Minority Studies and the Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, I welcome all of you to the inaugural session of the Nai Talim lecture series titled The Transformative Vision of Nai Talim, Engagement with Battle for Knowledge from Colonialism to Neoliberalism, to be delivered this morning by Professor Anil Sadgopal. I would like to welcome and thank our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor S.M. Rashid, for having taken time out of his busy schedule to give the inaugural address. It also gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Professor Sadiqur Rahman Khidwai for having agreed to preside over the inaugural session. I welcome Professor Ehrad Sahab, the Dean Faculty of Education, and Professor SOHRAB Ali, the Head Department of Education, the Head of the Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Jamia Millia Islamia. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Professor Anil Sadgopal for agreeing to deliver this important series of lectures. Professor Sadgopal, I'm sure, needs no introduction to this audience. An academic, activist, and an eminent educationist, Professor Sadgopal brings with him a deep analysis of educational policy and how it has unfolded from colonial times to present-day independent India. A PhD in biochemistry from the California Institute of Technology, USA, 1968, Professor Sadgopal joined the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai. In 1971, at the age of 31, he resigned to set up a rural education and development program in the Hoshangabad district of Madhya Pradesh in the Gandhian Nai Talim framework. He pioneered the Hoshangabad Science Teaching Program in government upper primary schools to teach science through inquiry-oriented and hands-on experiment-based pedagogy, which eventually spread to 1,000 government schools in 14 districts covering 1 lakh children. Active in the struggle of Bhopal gas victims for justice from both the Union Carbide and the government, as member of the Supreme Court Committee for Scientific Medical Treatment and Rehabilitation of the Gas Victims, he co-authored a voluminous report for the Supreme Court in 1987-88. Professor of Education, University of Delhi in 1994 to 2005, and he was also its Dean, Faculty of Education. Professor Sadgopal has served on a number of education commissions and committees, like the National Commission on Teachers, the National Policy on Education, 1986, a review committee, the Central Advisory Board of Education, and the Central Advisory Board of Education committees respectively on Right to Education Bill, the Common School System, and the Secondary Education. He was also a member, he was also a chairperson of the NCRT's National Focus Group on Work and Education, and a member of the National Steering Committee for National Curriculum Framework. He was also the Bihar State's Common School System, member of the Bihar State's Common School System Commission in 2006-07. As Senior Fellow of the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library in 2001 to 2006, he researched on the impact of neoliberal economic framework and education policy. Professor Sadgopal has been a recipient of the Jamna Lal Bajaj Award, the Shanti Niketan's Ratindra Puruskar. He has authored 2 books in Hindi, Sangharsh or Nirman, on the radical trade union movement led by Shahid Shankar Guha Niyogi in Chhattisgarh, and Shiksha Mein Badlav Ka Sawal, on social intervention in education policy. As member of the Presidium of All India Forum for Right to Education, he is currently engaged in building a nationwide campaign with the twin objectives of resisting the assault by global market and communal forces on education and building a pro-people, entirely public-funded common education system. Over the next 3 days, Professor Sadgopal will be delivering 5 lectures under the Nai Talim lecture series. It is indeed appropriate that this series is being organized by Jamia Millia Islamia, which has a deep association with the program and the concept of Nai Talim. The title of his lectures are as follows. The first will be on, which will be delivered this morning, is the Macaulay's Framework versus Phule, Gandhi, Ambedkar's Emancipative Educational Discourse. The second is on Pedagogy of Productive Work, Language and Knowledge. The third, which will be held tomorrow at 2:30, is on Education, Disparity and Diversity, the Politics of Class, Patriarchy, Caste, Language, Region, Normal Body and Ideal Childhood. The fourth will be on neoliberal assault on education policy on Wednesday, and the fifth is on reclaiming knowledge, reconstructing education, a strategy of change and radical path of struggle and reconstruction. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues at my center and at the Institute of Advanced Studies in Education for their support. A special word of thanks for Dr. Sarwat Ali from IASE and Dr. Arvind Kumar from the Center for Dalit and Minority Studies for their valuable help in organizing this lecture series. I would now like to request Professor SOHRAB Ali, the head of IASE, to invite Professor Rashid to deliver his inaugural address. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, first of all, I introduced about the Teachers Training Institute. Actually, this Nai Talim has established from Jamia Islamia in 1938. At that time, that name was called as Teachers Training Institute. In this connection, I will not give the detail, but I am also Honorable Vice Chancellor to request you kindly address about the Nai Talim and give the vision of the Gandhi ji and Dr. Zakir Hussain sir. Thank you, sir.
SOHRAB साहब ने मेरे गले में फंदा डाल दिया है. प्रोफेसर सिद्दीकुर रहमान साहब, जिनको हम सब जो है सिद्दीक भाई कहते हैं, प्रोफेसर अनिल सदगोपाल साहब, प्रोफेसर अजरा रज़ाक साहिबा, प्रोफेसर एरार हुसैन साहब, सोहराब अली साहब, distinguished colleagues, students. Rather, today it is a rarest of the rare occasion for me, in a way that I used to come from a remote Tehsil headquarter in Hoshangabad district. I was born there in 1948. I lived there till 1961, and Professor Anil Sadgopal was associated with Hoshangabad Vigyan for almost 20 years. A long, long, long association, but this is my rarest of the opportunity for me that I am meeting Professor Sadgopal for the first time. I just really heartily welcome you, sir, because you belong among me, no other person, because you belong to the heart of India, Madhya Pradesh, and that too Hoshangabad district. For me, it's a very difficult proposition to speak on Nai Talim. As usual, when we are given a topic, we visit the website, Google Earth, search. I also try to search few things. And whatever I could understand about Nai Talim, I'll start with what the verses from Holy Quran were shared. That is, Iqra bi rabbikal lazi khalaq. Read in the name of Allah. Now, if you are reading in the name of Allah, what you will read? I don't think that anybody in the world will think of reading vulgarity, reading the system which will lead to the violence, lead to the hatredness. Rather, when we speak in terms of the two words used by Mahatma Gandhi, that is what we call as Satya and Ahimsa. Now, exactly what we look for in Nai Talim, we look for Satya and Ahimsa. Now, if we go with the chronological relationship and the system which we have to evolve, particularly in these challenging times, is to understand the basic philosophy of education for which throughout his life Mahatma Gandhi and Zakir Hussain lived, and of course which the Wardha experience and the Professor Sadgopal is doing for last 2 or 3 decades. I'll just quote few quotes from the Mahatma Gandhi, which are true reflection on what we call as the Nai Talim. The principal idea to impart the whole education of the body, mind and soul through the handicrafts that is taught to the children. Now we proceed further. An education which does not teach us to discriminate between good and bad, to assimilate that the one an issue, the other is a misnomer. Finally, when read Gandhiji further, the real difficulty is that people have no idea what education truly is. And this is still true, because we are simply creating the people who are beyond earning more and more money. We are generating a valueless society. I may be wrong, but the fact which we see all around speaks of the truth. The fact is this, that we have become more intolerant. The fact is that we have become more violent. The fact is that we have lost the basic crux of the education which throughout his life Gandhiji spoke of, which Prophet Muhammad spoke of, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and which every one of the religious heads speak of, that there should be value-based society. So if we are losing value-based society, then is a critical time to revisit our thoughts and our system of education. And of course, which is becoming very, very difficult in view of the upcoming globalization and upcoming modernization, what we call as pseudo-modernism. I call it pseudo-modernism. So the real difficulty is that people have no idea of what education truly is. We assess the value of education in the same manner as we assess the value of land or of shares in the stock exchange market. We want to provide only such education as would enable the students to earn more. We hardly give any thought to the improvement of the character of the educated. The girls we say do not have to earn, so why should they be educated? As long as such ideas persist, there is no hope of our ever knowing the true value of education. I think that with the two luminaries present over here, Professor Siddiqur Rahman Saab and Anil Gopal Saab, who could best share their experiences and their life devotion to inculcate the value-based educational system. I once again welcome Siddiq Bhai to his own home, to his own institution, from where he was nurtured, and of course, Professor Anil Gopal Saab, who is an old friend to Jamia, who has always been very, supportive to Jamia. I welcome you to all, sir. Thank you very much.